Hello and welcome to Boomer Live, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are to preview the World Cup final, and it's here. We're just few hours away from the spectacle which is going to set going in Ahmedabad. Obviously, we're going to sit here and talk about it. We can't definitely make it to the stadium because of lack of tickets. We did try. It's not like we did not try to make it to the stadium. We did try, obviously, like all of you. We also did not have any tickets, and we also were put in the queue. So here we are, sitting in our own homes and talking about what could be the World Cup final like. And from here, we're going to predict the pitch. From here, we're going to sit and talk about what the 11 is going to be like. Usually, like any other broadcaster out there, we don't have the pitch side report for you, but we can definitely predict. That's our skill. We can sit 1,000 kilometers away and still predict what the pitch is going to be like. So you can take our word, not for granted, but definitely you can take our word for all the money which you give. And it's an absolute free show. You're not even paying your Hotstar or anywhere. It's just giving you free updates on what you want. A true update.
It's a bargain.
We're not going to bore you with. And no bullshit here. No bullshit. Absolutely. Only cricketing sense. We're not going to bring theatrics and drama.
And we will definitely talk about all 22 players and not just one king. And
yes,
we talk about the captains.
No one king, no hitman, nothing. We're just going to talk about what.
Because everyone deserves credit across both the teams. Did I get stuck?
Yeah, I think I just lost the connection slightly. Sorry. Meanwhile, as we get going, welcome Jared on the show. We're just few hours away from the World Cup, right? Yeah. I mean, I remember 2011 World Cup. It was on a very similar Sunday. We all were pretty nervous about it, but it's a very similar feeling. I can assure you that it's a very similar feeling at night before the World Cup final. To be honest, it's not sinking in even now. I'm like, it's World Cup final. For God's sake, please, it's World Cup. It's not normal match. I don't know why it's not sinking in.
I'm just trying to live my life normally.
I don't know why.
The moment I start thinking about it, I start getting flashbacks. And I don't want those flashbacks.
I don't know, man.
But at the same time, I don't want to be too confident as well.
Maybe for the first time, I'm not getting that reality. You know, I'm just like, it is a World Cup final. Come on, it's a World Cup. India are playing in it. It's like the first time in 12 years. I'm like, yeah, I can't. I don't know why everybody around the world is like, India playing. But I am like, come on, man. I don't know why I'm not getting that, that extra bit of hype for this. I'm not telling it's not a hype match, but I'm not getting the feeling, to be very honest. I'm not mentally getting that feeling.
Are you not feeling patriotic enough?
It's not that.
I don't know which part of India you're in, bro. Because as far as I know, everyone I talk to, it's probably also because you're sitting at home, I suppose. But everyone
it's not like that. It's not like that, Jared.
Was just coming and asking me
before every match of India in this World Cup. I was like, for me, I think I've seen a lot of finals. I've seen a lot of this. For me, it's just another day now. I don't know why.
No, I think it's also got to do with your RCB heritage. You're like now done.
It's nothing to do with that. I think it's like there's a sense of confidence which I have with Team India, which I've never had before.
Fair enough. That is founded in
welcome on the show, Sandeepani. Are you nervous about this? I was more nervous on the New Zealand game than this, to be very fair.
No, I'm really nervous about it. I think the same energy that I felt before the New Zealand game, I have the same energy still. I am very, very pumped up, and I hope that India goes well tomorrow. Having said that, I think both the teams have had a very, very good runs. A lot of people are drawing a lot of parallels to old tournaments and everything else. But I think all those things are bogus right now. I think everything will depend on how the teams are able to handle their nerves. Because I feel this Australian team, if they have any advantage over this Indian team, I think they have held their nerves better than this Indian team. And the Indian team has not really been tested in terms of getting really close games. Because India, if you look at the last 10 games, India have won all the games quite comfortably. You can say the game against Australia, but at the end, it was a one-sided game as well. So I think this will be a test of nerves, especially tomorrow. Such a hype because, they are completely under control when you talk about their momentum and the batting form. The bowlers are in form. But if you talk about the pressure, even if you don't feel it, I think it's going to be really, really on the Indians. A home World Cup, and mind you, I think a lot of parallels were drawn that the captain standing on the left side of the photo.
I don't believe in this, man.
But no, I tell you the logic because
that's exactly why I started off this live saying that we're not here for drama, bullshit, and nonsense.
No, exactly. I think the logic is. I think the logic
captain,
why
captain standing on the left. getting married and winning the World Cup. This bullshit I don't entertain.
No, I think the captain standing on the left thing is, I think, more due to the host nation standing on the right side of the trophy. That's been the case of the
Yes.
last three World Cups, because you have
No, and
seen that the
Sanjivani,
host nation
if you
has gone on to
remember,
win.
Sanjivani, in WTC final as well, they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Rohit is now finally standing on the right side, Indian
Yeah,
captain, so
yeah.
never stood on the right side." And see what happened. So
And also, I
that
think if you talk about numbers and parallels, I think one has already been proven wrong. I think since 2011, the player scoring the first century from the team, he was scoring the first
Yeah.
century, was
New
going on
Zealand
to
is
win the
already
World
knocked
Cup.
out.
But New
Exactly.
Zealand is already out of the thing. So you can't really depend, or I mean, focus too much on these things. Yeah, I mean, a Richard Kettleboro effect is also going on,
No,
but
he's not
also
the
he was.
on-field umpire though. Thankfully, he's not an on-field umpire. It
you
is Richard
just said,
Illingworth
Abel,
at
that you don't
Mark.
believe in such things,
Yeah,
and
but
here you
if you
are.
guys want to really, if you guys really want to take that into conclusion, yeah, because everybody's like, oh my god, I got a bad news today morning. See, guys, he's not even an on-field umpire. If you guys really want to look into all this bullshit, so once and for all, let's just put all this nonsense into trash can. Okay, that's a good question from Kapil Verma to start off with. Jaren, does this really matter tomorrow? Because for me, I'll put my perspective first up. I think both are different formats to start off with. Secondly, it happened months ago. And thirdly, the current form is totally different. In the one day format at this point, it is more like what we had India as the underdog. India were the favorites going to WTC final. Let's be very honest about it. Because India was coming off an IPL and Australian players had more time to spend over there. So India were the favorites going to WTC final, but it's unlike that tomorrow. And on top of that, we have a full strength squad. We don't have a Shardul Thakur to come in and leak away runs, so Travis said. So no disrespect, but that's what it is. And I'm sure this is India's strongest 11 as well. For WTC, we were finding 11 in the last moment. We'd gotten Ajinkya Rahane out of nowhere. Virat Kohli was still finding his feet. Now you have an informed Virat Kohli. Then you had a lot of issues in the middle order. A lot of ifs and buts where they didn't have a proper keeper. I have a lot of issues in the WTC team. Then does it really play a part tomorrow?
I mean, if you look at the last decade, Abel, if there's one team that has been really consistent in the one day format, it's been India. 2011 winners, then 2015 semi-finalists, 2019 semi-finalists, and then 2023 again finalists, right? So India have, if there's one format that Indian team has always loved playing, and I'm not just talking about the current crop, I'm talking about from the past, right? We've loved playing one day cricket. I think we are one country that enjoys playing one day cricket. But if you're talking about WTC final, I think it has no bearing because, as you rightly mentioned, it's a different format. And if this World Cup is shown anything, that one day is still a format of its own. Doesn't matter if you're good at T20, doesn't matter if you're good at Test. You have to play one day by its own rules, and that's how this World Cup is proven. Because a lot of T20 batters failed, a lot of so-called Test anchors have failed. So a lot of this World Cup has shown one thing, that one day is a format of its own. And another point being, WTC was held in England. We've not had the best of records in England. You would say that Australia has had a better history in England than India, considering the Ashes and the performances in Ashes series as well. India is still, becoming a better team in England in the Test format. But right now, we're going to be playing in India. The conditions are lot less alien to the Indian players, and from what we're hearing, it's going to be a spin-friendly pitch as well, which has really been an Australia's bane for this World Cup. Look at any match that you have played, even the last match in Eden Gardens, spin was one factor that really helped South Africa pull the game back.
Yeah.
So that's where you would say that India will feel confident. But having said that, there will be two different flavors of pressure on both the teams, right?
Yeah.
India
But
will
let's
feel
start
the
off
pressure.
player versus player, right? I mean, to start
Yeah,
off with,
sure.
maybe we can start off with the opening pair because I think it's only fair we compare player versus player and to see how things stand. I mean, if you talk about Australian opening pair, they've had the best strike rate in this World Cup so far. And second is India, and thirdly is again the Mitch Marsh and David Warner pair. And since Travis Head's inclusion into this team, there's been a certain sense of belief in the Australian team as well. We can go out there and get those very fiery starts, which has enabled their middle order, which has been shaky, to be covered with that. Because if you look, if without that pair giving those quick brisk starts, you can say at the end of the day, they could have been put under so much of pressure on multiple occasions in this World Cup. But they have done it so well in New Zealand or in the last game. Even last game is a clear-cut example. If not for the start, they would have been in so much trouble. So, Nimani, you reckon this is a very good matchup to start off with? Two opening pairs who are in fine form heading into a final. It could be crossed out with two great performances, or one opening pair who really is much more solid can win tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the opening pair is going to be really, really key because India still have had their middle order really stepping up. We'll talk about it later for sure. But the Australians are really struggling with the middle order as well, especially the lower middle order. You have had some phenomenal performances from Maxwell, but other than that, Australia are a bit lacking on the middle order front. So I think they'll really rely on the likes of David Warner, Adam Travis said, and then Mitchell Marsh coming in at number three to give them that tempo or base from where they can really accelerate towards the end. And also, who is going to come in and accelerate is going to be a huge question because Maxwell has been a hit and a miss. I mean, you can't say hit and a miss after he has scored probably some 400 odd runs, but just two impactful innings in the last 10 games. So I think they'll really, really heavily rely on Travis Head and David Warner. And we have seen that Australia have struggled to get off the blocks really quickly if either of David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, or Travis Head hasn't really gone on to score those big runs. You talk about the game versus Afghanistan, they were reeling. Then I think Head has had two very, very positive impacts in the game against New Zealand and in the game against South Africa last night. And also, I think he's a very, very good candidate because I think India will also be teetering from the way he played the Indian bowlers in the World Test Championship finals. I know different conditions and different, time control, everything. But I think that will somewhere play in the back of his mind that he is good enough, capable enough to take on the bowlers. Because if you talk about the bowling combination, Mohammad Shami has been absolutely, the most lethal bowler against left-handed batsmen. I think at one point somebody, I think it was somebody in the media who said just left-handers are finding it really, really difficult to face a Mohammad Shami. He's coming in using all the angles really well. The ball is seaming perfectly. So I wouldn't mind him coming, given that Mohammad Siraj or Jasprit Bumrah does not start off the way they would want to, because Travis Head and David Warner are going to come really, really hard at this Indian bowlers. And if you can, if they go off to a flyer, say 26, 27 runs of the first 4 overs, you can get in a Mohammad Shami and they can be a bit,
I
vulnerable
think
against
that's
Shami.
where we are also scouting a Jasprit Bumrah factor. When you have a Jasprit Bumrah, it's not quite easy to get him away. Now, if you look when Travis Head has come after us, even at the WTC final, I think not having Jasprit Bumrah really played a big factor. Tejas mentioned Shami in Ahmedabad is inevitable alongside Gill, of course. But I think more than that, Jasprit Bumrah in any condition in India, I think him in power play, I know he went for a little bit of runs, mainly because of the extras he balled in the last match. But having said that, I think Jasprit Bumrah will be a tough player to get away with. It's not like a Marco Jansen or Rabada, which Australian players did get away pretty easily with. Jasprit Bumrah is going to test you. He's going to test both your edges. He's going to ball those Yorkers if need be. If he's going to ball the slower balls, if you're really trying to be, if he's trying to outsmart them. So he's got all the skills against the Travis Head tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And one of the interesting things now here is, I think when Sandeepan has mentioned it, right? The one bowler that probably you will see David Warner and Travis would go after will be Mohammad Siraj, because he has probably, if you have to really look at those three bowlers, you'll say that they have been the most perfect trio of fast bowlers that we've seen in this World Cup, no doubt. But if there's a weak link there, that
Yeah,
has to be Mohammad Siraj. And that's not any
yeah,
against him. It's just that Bumrah and Shami has been so phenomenal that maybe teams can identify him as that weak factor. And one of the issues with Siraj has been he's a confidence bowler. If you can go after him that early bit, not give him anything, and just really destroy his confidence, he
yeah,
does tend to get a little, bogged down under that pressure. So that's the way they might go after him. But I still think Sandeep mentioned about Mohammad Shami, another really dangerous fast bowler against left-handers is Jasprit Bumrah, and that's where that opening spell, and I think Siraj as well loves bowling against left-handers round the
yeah. He
wicket.
does.
This, that the wobble ball that he balls that goes away becomes very lethal because you never know if it is going straight or just taking that tad bit away.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think Indian fast bowlers on a whole, in general, have bowled well to left-handers for the past few years, I would say, and that's where it will be a little bit more tougher for David Warner and Travis Head. But if you can get those two out early and expose Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne, that's where the things are going to get interesting.
Yeah, Tejo also mentions that, the top three of Australia will be the key. If they don't really perform, the Australian team is all of a sudden in a lot of trouble. I mean, that's something which India had in the 2019 World Cup. You can say a top three heavy reliant team. And, these kind of teams, there's always the sense of, belief that on a
Inevitable.
bad day, what do you do? I know there's a Glenn Maxwell there down for them and who's played match in 200, but there's no confidence. If they collapse, like three down in the power play, who comes to rescue them is a big question, right? The big question mark which really relies who's going to head their score from there on to a 290, 300, because you need a 290, 300 if you're batting first, or yeah, especially if you're chasing that bit of score. You need someone who can really power the innings as well. So can Manas and Steve Smith do it? So far, it doesn't say anything that they both can do it. Now, that's why we look at the player versus player again for Steve Smith versus Virat Kohli here, because if you look, Steve Smith was a Virat Kohli in this entire World Cup edition. I think Virat Kohli, obviously, the leading run scorer of the World Cup, he's taken leaps above him. Average is not even a question of 100. It's no comparison, right? Let's be very honest. 500s, 350s, 550s and 300s, and obviously 250s for Steve Smith. He's not really had a World Cup remember at all. He's looked very, very scratchy throughout, but he's a player of big matches. You never know. He might just come good tomorrow, and we might all just be like, oh, wow, Steve Smith hits India again. So that's what Steve Smith always can do. There's always an if that with Steve Smith that's always associated. But talking about form right now, Steve Smith is not in best of form, and he's trying to get away by trying to score those big shots, and that's been his biggest fall as well. He's getting stuck in the crease, and unlike Test cricket, there is no time for him to be stuck in the crease and play out a session and let the runs come by. Now, even if you look at Test cricket in the recent past, his strike rate has really come down, so that's not really helping the one-day format, isn't it, Jay?
I mean, I think the issue with Steve Smith also is surprising, because you would say that he has been one of the best foreign batters in India. He's had phenomenal record here in all formats. I think maybe barring T20 format, he's not played a lot of T20 in India as far as I'm aware in international cricket. But one day and tests have been where he's really performed well. So it's not like he's not got the technique for it. I think there are two issues here, Abel. First off, when we speak about the middle order vulnerability, you have to say that the only reason why I feel they play Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith is because of that middle order vulnerability that was really exposed in that South Africa series, where they lost 3 back to back to back. It was exposed, that middle order vulnerability, and it was so their idea of bringing Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne is that they've gotten players like Maxwell, Inglis, who can really take the 8-ball game on and go after the bowling, but they're not probably batters you can expect to play the long innings, because how many times have you seen Maxwell play a knock of that many balls before? When he plays, he can be devastating. He can score double hundreds. But can he play those many deliveries every match? Is always been a question about Maxwell. English as well. Probably we saw him playing innings like that against South Africa for the first time ever. We appreciated him for that reason. But that's not his natural game either.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith are in that team to lengthen the batting order. Make sure that players like Maxwell and English come in at a point in time where they don't have many deliveries to face. They can be a bit more focused to just scoring runs and not really protecting or not really facing a lot of deliveries. So now Steve Smith's biggest issue has also been surprisingly has been rotating strike against spinners, which is really absurd to see. Even against India, you felt that, right? He played one of his best innings against India, mind you, in this World Cup. He did stay in there long enough, but got out at the worst possible time. But even in that innings, you felt like he was not able to rotate strike against Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah.
That's another factor, right? Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav are two bowlers who love bowling against Marnus and Steve Smith. So his biggest test tomorrow is going to be against the two spinners, considering that we are saying the pitch is going to turn as well.
Absolutely, but there's no certainty the pitch will turn. I'm still expecting it to be a.
That's the early reports, yeah.
Yeah, it's still early days. I mean, we'll see after the first ball or when the first spinner balls,
I mean,
where the pitch holds on, or whether the pitch is.
You are right to be a bit, you are right to be a bit skeptical, because remember that's what was told about New Zealand pitch, and we ended up seeing a 700 plus scoring in that match in 100 overs.
Yeah, so whatever reports what we get, it's the India-Pakistan wicket again. That wicket did not see a lot of turn, to be very fair. Whatever it saw was a little bit of hold in the first innings, and this wicket, as per what Rohit Sharma says, it's a lot more greener. So I don't see the pitch turning in the first innings at least. And if the dew comes in the second innings, it doesn't turn. So for me, the biggest question that everybody asks tomorrow is, what do you do when you win the toss? Now there are two reasons behind this. Like, obviously, you don't want to chase against Australia in a World Cup final. You have got a lot of experience of not chasing against Australia in a World Cup final. Secondly, whether do you put dew as a consideration at all? Because with that ground in Ahmedabad, it's always preferred to chase, because under lights it does tend to play a lot better than what it does during the day, to be very fair.
I think India have played 10 games right now. They have batted first on 5 instances. They have chased on 5 instances. They have won all 10. So I think it will be ideal for Team India tomorrow to lose the toss because I don't know. It's an important game. And as Rohit Sharma has mentioned before the semifinals as well, I think toss is not really going to be that important. Yeah, the dew is going to come in. But then again, like you mentioned, I mean, you wouldn't really want to chase against Australia in a World Cup final after winning the toss. So I think it's a tricky call, but I would still back the strengths of the Indians and chase if that is the dew is going to set in, and if the conditions seem to be green early on, because then once the dew sets in, I don't think the spinners will be as effective as they could have been in the first innings as well. And it will also be interesting to see how the three paces go up against Australia. And if you can put some early pressure, maybe take 1 or 2 wickets. It's always easy to know how much you're chasing in these sort of critical instances when the pitch is tough. But then again, I mean, you shouldn't get
I
batted out
think
of the game in the first innings itself.
Yeah,
I
true.
think to be very frank, I won't be surprised if both the captains are a bit relieved that they lost the toss. You
Yeah,
know,
I think I
it's
agree
like
with you as well.
ever.
I think it's not a bad
Yeah,
toss to lose tomorrow. I mean,
yeah,
if you lose a toss, you don't have an issue. By chance you win the toss, you select the wrong thing, and then the
yeah.
media, everybody's going to be behind. That's worse. That's
Yeah,
really
and also
bad.
I think talking about some of the batters, I mean, just to add to Jaren's point about, I mean, Steven Smith's performance in this World Cup, I also feel that the strike rate hasn't really gone his way. I mean, he's not rotating the strike, that is one point. But I also feel that he's coming in at number 4 and then scoring at a strike rate of 81.86. On most instances, Australia had gone off to a great start from the top three. Either of the top three had gone on to score a century, and then Steven Smith was coming in at number 4 and playing at a strike rate of 81. And then you have a Marnus Labuschagne coming in at number 5. I understand lengthening a batting, but when you have players like Glenn Maxwell, Josh Inglis coming in at 5 and 6, I still feel they can go in with a Cameron Green or a Marcus Stoinis at number 7,
I
because I
think they
feel
should.
Marcus Stoinis, yeah, and Cameron Green are
Yeah,
X Factor players if you compare them with the Marnus Labuschagne. I understand that
yeah.
he'll give you
But I
something
don't
with the
think they're going to
field.
make a change at this point in the World Cup
They
because
aren't. They aren't. They aren't.
it's the
Yeah.
final,
Yeah, they
right?
aren't, but
And I
it's
think,
just silly, right? It's just silly to
I
have a
mean, that's
Marnus
why
Labuschagne when you
India's big
have.
I think
opening race as well.
to
Now,
be
you
very
asked me a
frank,
question
yeah,
whether India will be
yeah.
comfortable chasing, right? Now, I think India will be the most comfortable team chasing amongst India and Australia because India will know if we are chasing a 310 tomorrow, India will back themselves to chase it because they'll feel like, okay, we've got the batting to do it. So, we've got batters in our heart and we can do it quite comfortable. But if you ask an Australian team, would you be comfortable chasing a 330, 340 tomorrow? They'd be like, wait a minute, what happens if we lose Warner and Head earlier on? And then who does it for us? Now, if you look at that Ahmedabad game, which happened against England, I think a lot had to be coming down to a Marcus Stoinis, and I think it was who else played the knock. I think Cam Green played a very important knock there.
Yeah.
So I think it was
Yeah,
them
yeah.
who sailed the ship to 280. If not for them, it was easily a 220, 230 kind of a situation. So once again, the pressure is going to be in Australia. I think Australia will prefer batting first. India wouldn't mind batting second.
Yeah, that is a
And I
very
think
good
if you
way
look at
to put
India's
it.
record,
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at India's record, they've played 10 matches, including the semi-final. Now they won 5 batting first and 5 batting second. So they have no issues with that. I think
But then
only
again,
factors that
Jaden,
will
they
come into
had
play
won the
is
first 5
yeah,
games batting second, and the last 5 games they have won batting first. So
yeah, fair
I
enough.
think
But
that,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, as
I
you
mean,
mentioned, one big threat, as Teju also mentions over here, is only Hazelwood, because Hazelwood has got a very good strike rate against Virat Kohli as well. It's picked him up 5 times. Virat Kohli averages 10 against him, his RCB teammate. So I think Virat Kohli is Hazelwood will be one matchup to watch, and I think in the first match,
yeah.
Hazelwood troubled Rohit as well. Rohit and Shreyas
Hmm.
was dismissed by Hazelwood there. So Hazelwood is going to be India's biggest threat tomorrow
If I'm
among
not
all the
wrong,
players.
that catch which was dropped to Virat Kohli was of Hazelwood itself. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
in
am.
that
I
field.
think so. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it
Hazelwood.
was of
Yeah.
Hazelwood.
So I mean
And
that's
also,
true.
I
And
think
I think
he'll be coming into this
yeah.
game with great form as well. 8 over 3
Hmm.
maidens, 12 for 2 was his figures in the game against South Africa. He'll be high on
Yeah.
confidence, high on form. But then again, I still feel India will stick to the template. Rohit Sharma will come out all guns blazing in the power plays.
And they
Shubman Gill
should
will
as
look to
well.
support him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should as well. But then again, that is where I feel the only you can say the negative aspect of chasing is you know exactly what you're. I mean, if Australia goes on to score something even in excess of 270, 280, and India loses Rohit Sharma early on, or say 1 or 2 wickets early on, then to pace the innings in a certain manner while chasing, we have seen India struggle against Australia itself in some of the bilateral series, where you had seen Virat Kohli coming in, scoring half centuries, getting out, and then there was nothing from the rest of the middle order. So I think that
Yeah.
is something that India will have to work on. And Shreyas Iyer coming in at 30 for 2 or 16 for 2 instead of a 140 for 2. How he goes about it is going to be very, very interesting.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are saying Travis Head and Hazelwood are the players to watch out for. Agreed. I think these two are the main
But I
players
think
for me.
Travis Head
I'll
is
add
still a
one
player,
more
I
player.
think.
Right? I'll add one more player to that list. I think Adam Zampa. I know he's not done well in the last 2 games, but he has been a threat for Australia. He's been the highest wicket taker as well. It's his performance that has really carried this team when Hazelwood and Stark were finding it difficult in the World Cup. Now Hazelwood is really back to his prime form. Stark is also done well, but it has been Adam Zampa. And I think the last game was very surprising. Everyone was surprised when he went for 7 runs per over, but he can be a threat. And he's been a threat against India before as well. And I think that's where, and you remember Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, though they have improved very recently, you would have to say, but they still have had that latent issues with leg spin, especially with Googly. And if there's one bowler who balls Googly really well, other than Kuldeep Yadav, is Adam Zampa. His Googly is really
Yeah,
well disguised.
yeah.
So he's going to be a key factor tomorrow.
Hearing that Ashwin should replace Siraj, I mean, why would you replace a winning combination? I think I don't see India replacing it at all at this point, to be very honest. Because if there was a Hardik Pandya in the team, I would have said yes, that's a
Yeah,
possibility you could have thought of. But
yeah,
now, as you're handicapped with only two seamers, you wouldn't
yeah,
definitely replace Ashwin. You wouldn't really
And I
replace
think I
Siraj.
mentioned it in the last game as well. I think me being one of the biggest supporters of Ashwin, I still feel India should go on with Mohammad Siraj.
But you
yeah.
Because
should do the same combination. You don't have to change the thing. I mean, at this
exactly.
point, definitely not. Or else you should have done something against Netherlands to see how it really works. Now, if you're not changing anything in that game, it really shows that India are believing in this combination and India are going to
Yeah.
back the combination. I don't see any change. And Ahmedabad, it's not really a spinner's ideal pitch. If you look, even in
Yeah.
IPL, spinners hadn't really gotten a lot of wickets. I know Noor and Rashid did pick up wickets, but if you look at their style of bowling, it's totally different.
I think
The
Rashid
Indians
Khan
are
has
not
found it very,
also.
very difficult to play in
No,
Ahmedabad.
and
He had a very, very
yeah,
easier run at the Rajiv Gandhi, at Hyderabad. When you compare
mm,
his figures from Hyderabad and Ahmedabad, you'll see there is a stark difference. I think only one
Yeah,
spinner has found
yeah,
it really smooth going. That has to be Noor Ahmed. But then again, I feel Kuldeep Yadav tomorrow is going to have a good game as well. I think he's going to be very, very critical against that
no, yeah,
middle order of Australian team, because I don't really see a Steven Smith or a Marnus Labuschagne facing him easily. And I think Maxwell and the lower order, Josh Inglis, are going to find it extremely difficult against him as well. Even a Jadeja. I think Jadeja has a brilliant matchup against Maxwell in the T20s. But
and
if you
Steve
take the
Smith.
ODI format as well, I think it's one of the best matchups for
Yeah,
India's point of view.
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. Second question for me, I think India should continue what they've been doing. Don't change anything. I agree. I mean, you shouldn't change anything
yeah,
at this point. Zampa has a good numbers against Iyer and Gill. Hazelwood has already got good numbers against India's top five. So yeah, so obviously, we have also got bowlers who've got good numbers against their players. So it's a good matchup, and that's why there's the most deserving final you can say into an extent. I mean, the two most toughest finals India could have faced is a very good white ball team of England, who is in very good form to face in the
no,
final,
I think,
and Australian
yeah,
team. These were only India's two biggest challenge in a World Cup final. Now you've got
yeah,
an Australia, so obviously it's a big challenge, and you have to beat the best to be
And
the
that is why
best.
you can see us being a bit nervous and not really
yeah,
celebrating too much.
they're
Yeah.
very nervous. I'll be very
Obviously,
frank, guys. The whole day, if anyone who's come and asked me about the finals tour, I'll be like, just don't talk about it. I want to live today without any
Same,
nervousness,
same. I
without
have
any
had
butterflies
so many people come up to
Yeah,
me and ask
I
what
mean, the
is going
world
to
is
happen,
talking, the
and
nation is
what to
talking about
expect.
it. So that's why I'm not talking about it much because everyone's talking.
we are
Everybody, if you
literally
read the
talking
page,
about it for
everybody's
half an
talking about
hour.
the World Cup. That's why.
No, but I still feel with the way the tournament has gone and with the form,
Yeah,
I think we can once again talk only about numbers and forget about all the Kudrat Kanizam and stuff like that. I think we should keep that.
But I've never been
Save that for
so
Pakistan.
confident going into a World Cup final.
no,
Exactly, and I think this
I
has to be
genuinely
India's
feel,
best
guys.
chance.
I genuinely feel, guys, that India's supposed pitch changing skills and coin throwing skills will really help India win tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
Tomorrow,
I
think
saw it
those are
before
the
I
main
Indian,
don't
two.
Indian
think that is going
Sheffield
to
match in
have too much of an
Australia.
effect.
How
Supposed, that's what I'm saying
The
with air
Queensland
quotes.
Bulls captain just threw the coin so far away. I think Rohit should learn a trick or two from that. To throw it so far away
Yeah.
and just put even more
No,
fire into
I
those
think you should try
layers.
and take the coin and throw it as far as Mumbai. Maybe
Yeah,
India
I
can
think
win.
That's true.
I
That's
think you can
true.
try that. You have that sport, right, where you try to throw the stone on water and see how many times it bounces. So you can try that with the coin as well.
The
You throw
Sabarmati
it
River,
as
yeah.
far as you can. Probably hit a 70-meter six with the coin itself.
Yeah, that's
I
that's
think
what I
Rohit's
think.
gonna carry a bat tomorrow instead of, and he's gonna flip the coin using his bat.
Is
That's
Rohit
how it's
Sharma
gonna happen.
flipping the coin? Yeah, obviously. Who's captain flips the coin? Correct. So yeah, that's how it should be. Sky and Siraj could deliver tomorrow. I don't know, man. I mean, anybody
I want
delivers.
Sky to deliver tomorrow because as I told
I
you in
don't
the
know. I
last
don't even
live as
want
well.
Sky to deliver tomorrow. If you're going to the number 6, then you're gonna slide to the ball. But I don't want
I think
that.
once again, I think
No, it
Shubman
might
Gill
not
is
all
going
be
to be
bad.
really, really critical for India. I think he's another
Yeah.
player. I think he was
He's going to be very
really,
critical
really,
for India. Correct.
yeah. I think he was really, really upset to be missing out on a century. I know milestones. He does not really care about milestones, but you saw that at a point where Rohit Sharma got out after giving India that amazing start in the semifinals. You saw Shubman Gill carry out the same tempo, and he did not allow India to feel the pressure or Virat Kohli to feel the pressure. Because I still feel early on in Kohli's innings, if you can put the pressure on the other batter batting with him, I think he can be a bit tentative if he's
Yes.
having 3 4 dot
Yes.
balls. He can try to clear the mid off or mid on, and that is where the chances will come. And I
We
think
saw
it
that in
is
the
very
Indian
very
match.
important. Yeah, it is very very important for the player at the non-strikers end, along with Kohli, to give him that confidence and to maintain the template that India has been going on with. And I think Shubman Gill fits that template perfectly. Ahmedabad is one of Gill's favorite grounds. I think probably his
Yeah, I think
favorite ground.
Shubman Gill is a massive factor tomorrow. Massive, massive
Yes.
factor. I
And you
think
still
if
have to
Shubman
count
Gill
that
does
he's
well,
that one player who hasn't really got that century out of the top five.
yeah. You never know. I mean, he saved it, for the big day. And he's
Yeah.
got that habit of doing it. And he's got a billion 80. Let's not take anything away from him. If not for that injury, I thought that century was up for the grabs even in
Yeah.
Wankhede. But nonetheless, he can possibly, get that done tomorrow and finish unfinished business. And at the same time, I think another player which we're not talking a lot about, I personally feel, is Jadeja. I think he's going to be a big factor for India's chances
Yeah.
tomorrow. His bowling is going to be massive. He's got a good record against Australia to talk about. In the first match, picked up 3 wickets, both with the bat and the ball. And the last time around, he played a final here. He was a man of the difference. And it was just a few months ago. So I think Jadeja is going to be a massive factor in this game once again. And ultimately, our 3 fast bowlers are going to decide the fate for India. If our 3 fast bowlers are able to strike them early, then Australia are possibly done and dusted for me, in my opinion.
No, I think
Then it
India will
requires
strike early, but I don't think Australia will be done and dusted. But I do feel that the paces are going to spake in early
But you
wickets
tell me,
because
Sandipani, if you strike 3 early,
yeah,
you see
three.
the chances to be any good like what they
No,
could
no,
have
no.
been.
If India can go ahead and pick up 3 wickets in the first 15 overs, I think this
Because
Australian
then
batting
you
is
can
going to
actually
get
run through
toasted.
this team pretty easily.
Exactly,
This team
exactly,
can collapse,
exactly.
and they've got a very good habit of collapsing over the last 3 months. And then you've seen that as well. South Africa
Yeah.
series or this World Cup, their collapse
India
rate has
series.
been their collapse rate is pretty scary for an Australian fan at this point. I mean, even in the last game, it was almost a collapse, which was slightly averted. If not for that, that was a collapse, to be very honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was listening to Jared Kimber as well speak about the match, and he said that even though people are calling South Africans chokers on Twitter in semi-finals, if you really look at the match, I mean, what is the definition of choking? Yeah, it's when you're in a winning position and you start letting go of the match. But in that match, South Africa was the one who was chasing the 8-ball game. There was one team that actually choked was Australia. They almost let
Absolutely
go of
correct.
the game. After that brilliant start, they scored I think 74 runs, chasing
Yeah,
200 runs. That is 2/5 of the game already done. 2/4 of the game already done. You've scored close to 100 runs. You've already done half the work, and you have 40 overs left. You've already won the match. But from
Yeah.
there, they really crawled and struggled. It was an absolute, what do you say,
but
chaotic
that
one.
has been the template with this Australian team, right? They have been on the wrong side of the waters a lot of times, but there has
Yeah,
been that one performance of brilliance from either of the, I mean, one of
I
the
mean,
players who has really saved them in
if
all
you
the
look at this
instances.
whole World Cup, Sanibani, if you look at
Yeah.
this whole World Cup and you look at the major favorites of this World Cup, no one has more than one anchor, right? Virat Kohli is for India, Joe Root for England. South Africa has, I mean, I'm excluding Temba
Van
Bavuma here because
Anderson.
he's not really performed, or Van
Demba
Anderson.
Bavuma was a
And
non-playing asset
you look
on the
at the
side.
teams who have, except for Australia, who have had two. Afghanistan has had, I think, a couple of them.
Yeah.
Netherlands don't have any anchors, to be very
But
frank. And
Afghanistan really
Pakistan has
went
only
had a
anchors.
template of scoring only 270, 280 runs. So with two
Yeah.
anchors, you can only
Yeah.
end up and score a
And
particular certain number of
if you look
runs.
at, I mean, if you look at all the other teams, they've all had only one anchors, and the teams who've had a couple of anchors have really not done well. I mean, Australia's the only one
Yeah.
team which you would say have done well. Even New Zealand, they've only had one anchor, which was Kane Williamson. Probably two, looking at what Tom Latham's job was in that team. But again, those were the only teams who've had two anchors. So Australia has genuinely struggled with that. What do you say? The two anchors really weighing them down is what I would say, not really allowing them to race ahead. That's where I feel they did a mistake by, when Travis Head came, I really expected them to replace a Manas Labuschagne with Travis
Labuschagne.
Head. But I think at that point in time, they had Cameron Green injured. I think Marcus Stoinis was injured. So Manas Labuschagne stayed in. But that's where I still felt they should have gone with a Cam Green or a Marcus Stoinis. You never know with one baller in hand, because Marcus Stoinis did change the game for you against Pakistan, if you remember, with the
He's an
ball
absolute
in.
match winner. I think both Cameron Green
Yeah,
also has the potential of changing the game, and that is why it
absolutely.
is really, really surprising that Australia are sticking to the same team. I mean, I understand the winning combination and everything, but Siraj is still
He
a
gives you
player who
another
is
point.
performing
Yeah.
for India. So, I
Yeah.
mean, replacing him with Ashwin still does not make that much of a sense. But Manas Labuschagne
Yeah.
hasn't had any impactful knocks. I think he's having negative impact knocks in almost all the games and
Yeah.
not contributing with the ball as well. I think they're
And
not using him with the
if you
ball.
look at Cam Green, Sandipani, I think another point I'll add is look at, for example, Gujarat Titans and look at the success that Alzari Joseph had, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why he
Right.
had that success is because he gets the steep bounce. Cameron Green is a very similar baller, hit the deck, and get that extra bit of bounce. He can cause issues for batters in a stadium, in a place like Ahmedabad,
He had
And
to
I
especially
think
be
apart
against a
from the
line.
he
game
had to be
that they
great
played where
choice for
India went on
tomorrow's
to
game.
score 399, where Surya Kumar
Bharati's
hit four
team.
sixes. Yeah,
Mm.
apart from that, I think Cameron Green has had a good record against India bowling. I think he
Mm.
has
He's
varied
got a
his
decent
pace.
record. It's not
Yeah,
bad. It's not too poor either. So,
yeah.
it's not a bad option to have. If I was in the Australian camp, I'd be very tempted to have someone like a someone like a Cam Green in my team at number 5, because he gives a lot of stability and he's an X factor. Manas' luck is unreal. I mean, I don't think his luck is really working for him in this World Cup, at least. If his luck was
I think
working,
both Smith and Manas, whatever they've
yeah.
tried, it's not working.
But you never know. It could be a World Cup final where his luck really comes out.
Tomorrow.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah,
And
we
Manas is a
hope
great
that that
scorer.
does not happen, but yeah. But
So
I
Manas
still
is a
feel
great
that the
scorer.
Pacers have the ability to pick up at least two of the three attacking wickets. I mean, Australia are going to come
Yeah.
out all guns blazing, and you can probably pick two of Warner, Head, or Mitchell Marsh really early on, because they are going to give you chances. You'll have to just be very, very attentive. If players are alert, they're attentive, they hold on to their chances. I think Australia can be two down for say 30-40 in the first 6-7
yeah,
overs.
absolutely. And ultimately, it comes down to that moment. If you can really put the buzzer on and if you can really put the pressure back onto the opposition, they are going to crack. And that's how the World Cup finals always played out. You have to really go out and show your intent. You don't have to change anything much. If you're going to be timid, then the opposition are going to really sense that and they're going to really, absolutely put you under pressure as well. So it's a very
Yeah.
important line which you need to understand. Do not be reckless, but be aggressive and don't be timid as well. Because often India have lost games because of being timid. I think India know a thing or two of not being timid in finals. And that's about it from us for tonight.
I think
We'll be
I
back.
think we can just bring on another really interesting comparison between the captains. I think if
Yeah,
you look at what Rohit Sharma has done in this World Cup and what Pat Cummins has done, I think Pat Cummins will have to really uplift his game or up his game by a big margin, because some of the decisions that he makes, I know he's trying. I know he's not the most proactive captains out there,
yeah,
but still, I think some of the tactical calls have been bizarre, like not bowling out of Josh Hazelwood in most of the games and trying to give your fifth or sixth bowling option two extra overs. I mean,
yeah,
why would you do that when you have your bowlers in form not bowling for you? If you don't
yeah.
want Josh Hazelwood to bowl in the death overs, use his 10 overs within the first 30 overs itself. I think when the team is under pressure, you can just bowl him 10 overs on the trot.
Yeah,
He's a good
that's
enough
that's a
bowler
good
to bowl in
that's a good
momentum.
point, because though Pat Cummins has had a lot of success in a very young career of his, there are definite questions on decisions that he
I
makes.
think a lot of thing about Pat Cummins. I think if you really look at this World Cup, two of the best leaders, and when I say leaders, I mean they're different from captains, because whatever Sandipani spoke about is what captains do. But if you look at the leadership quality of these two teams, I think Pat Cummins is that one player who won his team very early in his career, right? Remember, I think just
Yeah.
2 to 3 months after, or I think even weeks after his captaincy, there was a huge furor over I think Justin Langer, and he
Yeah,
supported his teammates. And
yeah,
the whole of Australia, the cricketing royalty of Australia stood against him. He supported his teammates, and he has the respect of his teammates, and that's the reason why you see this team, rally behind him. and he leads this team from the front. He's been a true Australian captain for,
I
I
mean,
mean, a leader for
he's
sure.
won a
He's
WTC
made
already,
mistakes.
and if he
Yeah,
goes on to win the World Cup, he'll be remembered as one of the greatest from Australia. So let's
yeah.
just say he's going to get
True.
the tag very
And it's not
quickly.
easy to be one of the greatest captains in Australia when you look at
Yeah,
the
it's not easy, and
predecessors.
you're winning two ICC trophies in a year. I mean, you're talking about you're gonna.
No,
It's definitely tough to
I
come.
feel his game awareness with the bat is different. I think what his game awareness has been different, but I still feel some of the tactics that they have employed on the field, especially I think that has lacked a bit of.
So far, it's working for them, so I don't think they'll complain at this point. I mean, if I told Pat Cummins they're going to be playing a World Cup final after being 2-0 down, and they would have taken it with both the hands. And look at them; they've not lost a game since then. So they're two unbeaten. It's the longest streak of two teams who are going to come up against each other, and it's a befitting final because it's the two deserving teams ultimately. I mean, I felt Australia finishing number 3 was just kind of unfortunate for them. But yeah, they've been too good since their
I
loss.
think the roles are reversed. I think I'll just take you back to one number. I know we are talking about not getting into past results, but Australia had a consecutive 10-win record heading into the finals of the 2003 World Cup, and India had an 8-game win streak heading into the 2003 World Cup final. So I
Yeah,
think it's
I
just the
told you
roles
this long
reversed.
ago. It is like India is the Australia of 2003,
Yeah.
and in Australia are India. If you look at the two to balance it out, because
So
the two
let's
were
just hope
dominating.
Australia wins the toss and bowls first, and then we have a 357 for 2.
Yeah, because even in that World Cup, you knew if Tendulkar goes out, what happens. You always had that question mark on you. So that was that kind of World Cup. But this time, we know even if Virat or Rohit doesn't perform, there's so many guys who are performing around us. So it's like in Australia, right? You have a Damien Fleming, or you have someone, you have in Martin, or someone to come out there, or someone to escape. Your
Yeah,
Stymons, I remember scored 100 when they were like 90 for 5 against Pakistan, if I remember,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they took the game away. So 92 for 7, they were against New Zealand, and they still won that game. I mean, crazy. That team was one
Andrew
crazy team.
Bickle.
Yeah. So that's what it was. That was a crazy team, and they did not have a Shane Warne. Remember in that World Cup, and they still went on to win the World Cup
yes,
by having Brad Hogg
yes.
as a spinner, and that was that team they had. For me, I still think it is gonna come down to the very fact that who performs together as a team. I don't think
I think
individual
nerves.
brilliance is winning a World Cup ultimately.
I think it's going to go down to the nerves. Who can hold their nerves the best?
I think if you have to hold the nerves, I think a defending team who's gonna ball second will have to really hold on to their nerves.
Yeah.
And not just that, a team who's chasing as well will have to be extremely calculative. I thought New Zealand's chase was on point until unless they lost Kane there. Or else they were on point. They were really going well that day as well. So it's about India chase masters as they call it. I think if India are put to chase, India wouldn't really mind. I think India's got a very good bowling to restrict them under 300 as well. But then ultimately you have to chase it. You have to be at your A game. You're going to be under pressure. It is all going to come down to how you perform and handle spells. So that's why it's a World Cup final. So guys, enjoy tonight. Wake up to see a beautiful day. We're just what 13,
I like
14
how you're
hours
telling
away
people to
from
enjoy
work.
tonight.
Enjoy
Tomorrow
tomorrow, I
will be a
think.
tough day to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy
I
tonight.
hope we
Wake
enjoy.
up a beautiful day. I'm just saying that not to be nervous tonight, and tomorrow you can enjoy
Yeah.
even more. So that's the whole point. By tomorrow this
Easier
time,
said
you're
than
going to
done.
see the third star on India's t-shirt. Good night, guys. Have a
Good
good
night,
day.
guys.